How's it going, guys? All right, so today we're going to talk about RTI-inspired calculators, and we're going to learn how to use them and show you all a lot of neat things that this calculator can help you with. So initially, when you turn your calculator on, you may have to press the escape button to get out of this menu. And what I want to start with today is graphing. So if we hit our home button and we go to where it says new, I will always go to where it says new over and over again. There's a lot of shortcuts that you can take, but we want to make sure we clear out all the old stuff that somebody else has put in there. So I will always use the new button. Next, we're going to go down to where it says add a graph. And here is where we can type in our equation. Now, most of the equations we're going to be typing in are in y equals form. So they start with y equals. You're going to notice that this says f1 of x. F of x means y equals. So if I want you to graph y equals 5x minus 2, you don't need to type in y equals again. All you have to do is type in 5x minus 2. Now you're going to notice there's a little number 1 next to this. This 1 represents the first function you are graphing. So for example, if I hit the enter sign, it's going to show me my graph I typed in. Now if I hit the tab button right here, it'll now say f2 of x. That just means it's ready to type in a second function or a second equation. So let's just make one up real quick. Negative x, remember the difference between a negative and a minus sign. This is your negative and this is your minus sign. So if we type in negative x plus 5, I lied, plus 1, and hit enter, you'll see the second function on the same graph. Okay, so that's a neat little feature. If you want to add more graphs, you can continue hitting tab and continue on. So what we're going to do now, if we can go to the home button again, I want to start over again. So let's go to new, and we're not going to save it. Add a graph. And now we're going to type in our same equation, 5x minus 2. Okay, and hit enter. So things we should already know about this equation is 5x minus 2. We should have already known our slope and our y-intercept. So if we start by hitting the menu button, there's a neat little feature that's called trace. And trace, we would go to graph trace. When you click on that, you're going to notice here's our equation that we graphed. We should already know that y equals mx plus b, our slope is 5, and our y-intercept is negative 2. You'll notice at 0, negative 2, it already starts us off at the y-intercept. Just to show you, if you hit the right arrow and then the left arrow and go back to it, the calculator automatically tells you it's a y-intercept. So now, if I show you guys how to get to the x-intercept, you would just hit this, excuse me, this right arrow until you get to the x-intercept. But you're going to notice something pop up that says 0. That doesn't mean your answer is 0, because clearly it's not. It just means 0 is another name for an x-intercept. So we have x-intercepts, we have roots, and we have zeros. Those are 3 different names that all stand for the same thing. So where is your x-intercept? Well, it's actually at 0.40, and that is it. So it crosses the x-axis at 0.4. Okay, so again, the calculator will call your y-intercept a y-intercept, and it will call your x-intercept a 0. Okay, another feature, if we hit the menu button down here, and we want to go down to Analyze Graph. Analyze Graph, there's a lot of neat features which we'll use and learn later on, but the one I want to go to is dy dx. This is the change of the y's over the change of the x's. This is actually your slope. So if you did not know your slope and you hit enter, as you move your finger across the line, you'll notice this floating number that follows it. And that is the number 5, because 5 is your slope of the line. And that is it. Correct. Our equation started with 5x minus 2. Slope is 5. So that's another feature that you can use if you weren't sure on what your slope was. All right, next, let's go ahead and go to one more step here. We're going to hit menu. And sometimes you may want to know other points that are on your graph. And this is really convenient because if you hit table, so menu, go down to table, and we use split screen table, it will give you different points that are on the actual graph. So they might ask what's another point or what's another solution, or you may want another point to calculate something. This gives you all of the nice whole numbers for x at all these perfect whole numbers. It will give you their corresponding y values. So these are all points on the graph. Okay. Next thing, let's go ahead and exit out. So we're going to hit the on button, and we're going to go to new again. And we're going to talk about spreadsheets. A lot of y'all know about spreadsheets, which is awesome. So we're going to go down here where it says lists and spreadsheets. So this is really good for XY table charts. So we would call the very top X, and you want to call the very top next to that Y. And let's say they give you some point values. So for this case, we're going to type in 0, 1. That would be a point. Let's just say that I'm giving you that point. Another point could be 1, there it goes, 1, 5. So what's really nice about the spreadsheets option is if you struggle with slope or finding slope, this can help you calculate that. For example, I can hit menu, go down to where it says statistics, stat calculations, and check this out. Right here where it says mx plus b with 2 points, you can actually calculate. It's called a linear regression. It calculates a line that best fits those points. It can help you find not only the slope, which is m, but it can also tell you the y-intercept, which is really nice. It could actually give you the entire equation to the line. So if you scroll down to linear regression and hit enter, it's going to ask you, what did you call the x column? Well, we called that x. What did you call the y column? We called it y. After that, all you need to do is hit the enter button twice. So our enter button down here, you want to hit that 2 times. Okay, and this is what pops up. So you're going to notice something. It's telling you that m is 4. That's your slope. Your slope is 4. B is 1. That's your y-intercept. So if you wanted to know the equation to the line, it would be y equals 4x plus 1. That's it. So just with 2 points that were given to you, you're able to tell us what the slope is, what the y-intercept is, and the equation. Also, since you know the equation y equals 4x plus 1, you could graph that in your calculator like we just taught you and find even more information like the x-intercept and things like that. Okay, let's go ahead and exit out of this. So I'm going to go back to the on button, and let's talk about some calculator features that might be pretty neat. So calculator features that I want to talk to you guys about are, first of all, reducing fractions, because I know a lot of us struggle with that. So the best way to make a fraction in these calculators, especially really nice ones, are hitting Control and then divide. You'll see those 2 little boxes right there. If you hit Control divide, you will see this. And let's type in a fraction, such as -4, hit the down arrow, and 10. So if we don't already know this, -4/10 is not reduced. 2 goes into 4 and it goes into 10. So if we did not know that, or we struggled with reducing our answer choices, or if your answer choice doesn't match and maybe you think it's reducing, you can type this in and hit the enter button. And it automatically will reduce it for you, and it'll keep it as a fraction. Now, another nice feature is learning how to go from a fraction to a decimal. So for example, if we make another fraction by hitting Control divide, And let's just type in 2 over 5. Okay, so if you hit enter right now, you're just going to get the same fraction again, which isn't helpful. But if you type in that fraction and you hit Control Enter, that gives you those two little squiggly lines, which means approximately equal to, and it'll approximate it to the closest decimal that it knows. So Control Enter, and we get the decimal 0.4. Now, I also had another student teach me this yesterday, which I thought was pretty neat. If we type in the fraction, and let's say from the fraction you already wanted a decimal, you can also put a decimal point after the number, hit enter, and it will automatically understand that you want it in decimal form. I thought that was pretty neat. All right, so I'm not a fan of going from fractions to decimals. From decimals back to fractions, because the calculator does not calculate it very well. So I would not advise doing that. So what you can do is always look at your decimal point and say this is 4. 4 what? Well, this is the tenths place. So that would be 4, or make a fraction. That would be 4 tenths. And you can always hit enter and realize that that is 2/5, things like that. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is NSolve, because I see a lot of students using NSolve, and we need to understand what it's for, because you can't use NSolve on everything. So, for example, let's hit Menu and Algebra and Numerical Solve. So we actually are going to use a lot of these throughout the year, but let's talk about NSolve for now. If you take NSolve, NSolve is designed to solve one variable equations, meaning there can only be an x in the entire problem, or there can only be a y in the entire problem. As soon as you have 2 or more variables, NSolve does not work. For example, let's just say I gave you this problem, 5x plus 2x minus 5 is equal to, let's say 6x plus 10. So this problem, let's talk about what we'd have to do. We would have to combine like terms. We'd have to move our x's all to one side of the equation and our numbers to the other. Then we'd have to divide. And it is a multiple step process. It takes about 4 to 5 steps to solve this. With NSolve, notice how we're only using the letter x in this entire problem. So to make it solve for x, you need to make sure you hit right after it, comma, and tell it the letter you're solving for, x. And we hit enter. Solves it for you. X is 15. So last thing that I told you is only meant for one variable, because watch this. If I take this exact same problem and I add a single other letter, let's just say I'm going to put, let me just put plus y in here. And I wanted to solve for x. If I hit enter, automatically we get the error screen. So on that note, another last thing to discuss is exponents. If you struggle typing in exponents, like 5 to the 3rd power. So 5 to the 2nd power, you can do a shortcut and just hit this little button, and it puts that exponent there for you. You also could type in 5 and use this little caret, we call it a caret for exponent, and it puts it up top. And that would still also work. I personally like the caret because the caret you can type in anything, like 5 to the 10th power. And it checks out. So guys, I hope this helps everybody. Definitely use it to the best of your ability. The bell just rang, so class is dismissed.